Hello and welcome back to Magical Journey Podcast. I don't know what haunted objects we're going to be talking about tonight. And that's how it's supposed to be. I have been told that some of these objects have a presence. So if something weird happens tonight during the show, don't say I did not warn you. So tonight, we meet a collector of stories and spirits and objects. From the charmed trinkets to cursed antiques, our guest doesn't just believe in haunted objects, they live with them. I'm Daniel Cahoon, and this is Magical Journey Podcast. Join me as I sit down with Prosperity Witch Elly, a practitioner who turns prosperity spells and paranormal energy into a lifestyle. We'll talk haunted items, magical intent, the strange power of what we choose to keep. And that's not all. So stay tuned for some exciting announcements and some upcoming appearances tonight. And let's begin by bringing Prosperity Witch Elly to the stage.
Hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, doing great.
So, before we get started tonight, tell our viewers a little bit about you because not everybody has met you yet.
So, I'm the Prosperity Witch. People call me Elly. I have been a magical practitioner for about 10 or 11 years now, and in the public eye, I also do tarot readings, I read bones, and a bunch of other things. And yeah, I just live my day-to-day. My goal essentially is to show the world that witches are not all about the woohoo and, everything, but we also can live normal lives.
Wow, yeah, definitely. And where are some places online we can find you?
You can find me on YouTube at The Prosperity Witch and also on Instagram at theprosperitywitch.elly.
And Pam's got some links ready to pop up already for us. Thank you, Pam. So we're going to get started with an obvious question tonight. What drew you to collecting haunted objects? And was it curiosity, or was there something else that got you started?
It was definitely curiosity. As they say, curiosity kills the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. And I live in a place that's surrounded by some graveyards. I also live fairly close to a bunch of antique shops. So, it's just that accumulative energy that kind of just I live around daily, that I was like, you know what? If I find something, I'm going to experiment with it, investigate it, and see what happens. And that kind of led me to collect the small little collection that I have now. And currently, one of my favorite items is also on display at a shop that I do readings at. So that was something that made me proud.
Wow. So you have one of your objects displayed publicly now.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Some of this can get interesting at times. Do you believe that haunted objects carry spirits themselves, or more like a spiritual residue?
So from my experience, it's a little bit of both. I do have a item that I'm very eager. It's one of my prized possessions that I'm going to show off tonight. That I'd like to say the spirit kind of just came with it, and I ultimately took a new life, if you will, into my house. And then some of them, it was, oh, this person probably passed, and some of their energy is still here, or me being an animist as I am. I also have an item or two that just has a spirit to it.
Wow. So how do I want to put this? Do these things kind of choose you, or do you choose them?
So that's interesting. Here, I'll go ahead. This is my haunted Bible. I got this item from an antique shop not too far from me, and I remember that day like it was yesterday. I was just browsing, going through, visiting the town. I was new to the town that I'm in at the time, and I went into this antique shop because I just felt like something was in there that I just needed my hands on. So I go in and I start cruising the aisles, looking left and right, thinking, no, I don't want that spoon. Why would I want a spoon? Whatever. I passed this book initially. I looked at it. I said, okay, whatever. And then I kind of did that thing where, you take a step back because you're curious. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I stare at it. And I'm like, there's something going on here. So I pick it up, and immediately right then and there, I just felt like a wave of energy hit me.
Whoops, we froze.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah, so basically, long story short, I took him home, and some really weird things started happening after I took him home. At the time, I lived with my now ex-fiance and my former roommate, and we had two dogs. First off, the two dogs always got along. They loved each other, but like within the night, they started barking, arguing, biting each other, everything. And I had dreams left and right from the continuous days after of a redheaded man with glasses. I call him Thumper just because Bible Thumper, why not? And he was screaming at me, he was yelling at me, and I could tell he wasn't really proud of who I am in terms of my spirituality, whatever. So the very couple of days after, I went to the room that I was keeping this in at the time, and I kind of just sat down with it, and I was like, we need to have a chat, we need to get along. That never ended up happening, so I ended up I made a spirit trap, and he doesn't like me every time I bring it out. But yeah, I made a spirit trap out of a box that I also got from the same antique shop. Got little sigils in it and everything going on. Anytime he's in here, he's contained, can't do nothing. And so anytime he acts up, I threaten him by putting him in there.
Wow. That's kind of interesting, and I'm sure there's probably some conflict between him and some of the others then.
Can be. I do also have this rosary that I was gifted by a man who I formerly lived next door to, have since moved. And he kept on telling me one day that, like, for whatever reason, he just wanted to give me this rosary. Something about it, something about me and having this rosary. And you know what? I'm not opposed to it. I love jewelry of all kinds. I love little things like this as well. I believe in prayer, even though I don't practice prayer in the more traditional sense. So I thought, okay, this is perfect. Again, little did I know that when I got my hands on this rosary, my life was going to do some weird things. I remember I held it in my hand, and much like the Bible reacted to me, it had a reaction where it was like, I don't know about you, but I feel like you're a good person. And I just got that vibe. And from there, it was just, okay, cool. So naturally, again, put them in the box. That's all I say. I'll put them in the box. I feel like the rosary and the spirit with the Bible, they're good friends. They both talk trash about me. I'm sure they do. But hey, it's okay. We all live in this house. You know, anytime things go awry, I either give them water or I put them in the box. That's all I do.
Wow. So you've kind of answered this to a point about with the one spirit connected to the Bible, but I'm going to take this up a notch with this question though, and ask: have you ever had to banish or get rid of something because the energy was just way too much?
So thankfully not. Most of my spirits, I don't know if it's the fact that I know what I'm doing to a degree, thank whoever, but most of them, I just have to tell them I have rules. You're in my house. I get that you are older than me. Who knows, whatever. But this is my house. This is my physical space. You came to me. And so you either abide by these rules or action will be taken. And I always follow through. If they abide by the rules, great. They can live in harmony. We're all good. I'll give them water every so often. The spirit in the Bible, he loves bread. I've set bread by him, and it seems to calm him down. But if they don't, then I'll do whatever I have to. I'll either put them in the box, as I said. I'll put them in some sort of timeout. I'll put it that way.
Wow. I can't imagine, like, because right now everybody's kind of, I guess, super aware of this topic because of all the controversy going on with Annabelle and
Oh yeah.
in the upcoming movies. I'm gonna tell you, I quit even following the Annabelle controversy. I know that they're planning on bringing her to Kentucky, which is the closest she's going to get to Nashville.
She is currently, or has been recently, in San Antonio, which is a couple hours from me anyway. I was tempted to go and see what the hullabaloo was about. But I even told myself, I said, that's probably not for the best because I'm going to be the one to ask questions to a degree where I don't want them answered.
Right, right. And see, that's the thing that I wonder about with these objects to start with, is like when you engage with some of them, there is a potential for some negative reactions. Now some of the things with Annabelle obviously have been blown out of proportion. There's people are attributing godlike qualities to this doll, and Annabelle was not responsible for any mansions burning down or anything like that.
Right.
Tell us how it actually works, from your observation with haunted objects. I mean, obviously it's a very localized experience. They don't just like...
So from what I've noticed with my Bible, the rosary, and even my little guy right here, my little prairie dog skull. Found this one when I went on a hike one day, and much like anything else, I am me. I picked it up, and suddenly I have another spirit in my life. But anyway, so from my experience, they are drawn to energy and they heighten energy up. It's all energy. So when I come at them as I normally am, which is very uppity, very like wild and very, me, I guess, they tend to kind of feed off of that and interact with it in such a way. Or if I come at them very calm, it's all just an energetic exchange, really. So I've learned, especially when I'm approaching, for example, when I first, I'll put it that way, when I first approached the Bible spirit thumper, again, as I call him, I came at him with open arms. I came at him lovingly and obviously very excited. It was 2 years ago. I was like, oh my God, this has something to it. And that caused, everything to spike up because I myself was spiked up. And then the more mellow I got, I've noticed the more mellow he got.
Wow. Wow. So they can kind of they start matching your energy.
Yeah.
Then after a while. That's good to know. Yeah. Have you had experiences where they just kind of like decided, hey, you've got friends over, let's entertain them?
Yeah, there's been a good couple of times. Everything goes back to this Bible. I think Thumper is my most active spirit out of all of them. Everyone else just seems to be, but with Thumper, anytime I have him out, especially because he's very, I'll put it this way. There was a time where I took him to the metaphysical shop that I read at just to show him to my mentor. And we were both curious. We unbound the rope and everything. And we've noticed that there were some very not so, I'll put it, HR friendly notes written in the Bible about various people. And so, that made a lot of sense. I said, oh, okay, that might be why he hates me. Cool. And even then, my mentor at the time, she only knew a little bit about what was going on just because I told her. But she said, don't tell me anything more. I want to be surprised. Bring him. So I did. And I remember that day she grabbed onto him after I, offered a tour. Here he is. She almost fainted after she touched him because it was just like a whole pushback. I mean, we're in a witchcraft practicing shop with me and another fellow witch and all these things that are not traditionally Christian, for lack of a better term. So that was a wild day.
Wow. I can imagine that was probably not exactly what was expected to happen that day at all.
No, I do remember a couple of customers coming in and even them saying that the energy in what a space that we created to be very neutral, very like this is calming, everyone's welcome. I remember them saying to us that something feels off and they just couldn't put it. And we both would look at each other and look at the Bible and be like, well, okay.
Wow. Yeah. Jeez. So we have quite a few people in the chat right now and very talkative, which is good. They're all saying hello to you. And can you see the chat at this point?
I can definitely see Pam's little things every so often.
I love Pam. Pam is throwing some great links up as always. Tom from the Eye of Jupiter is definitely in the house tonight watching with us. Tom, thank you for dropping in. One of the things that I really wanted to touch on with this is I cringe at the thought of talking about this particular piece because this item in particular goes into the realm of dolls. But you've mentioned to me about one particular item that you have that is should we say rather colorful?
Sammy.
Yeah, a little colorful.
Yeah, Sammy. So that would be the item that is displayed at the metaphysical shop. He has grown quite the following. People will come in and offer him candy whiskey, money, all just because they love him. We've even bought some special clothing just to change him out. So I assume tomorrow, since he is mine, I will be changing him into his summer outfit.
Oh,
But he, much like my other spirits, he and I didn't really get along at first. It wasn't because, he was a Bible or anything and I'm me. It was just a matter of like we both didn't know what the connection was. But I remember when my mentor left me in charge of the shop while she was doing a paranormal investigation of her own. He and I just sat down one day. We watched Rocky Horror Picture Show, and he got into it. Anytime that I got in front of the TV, I felt poked, prodded, pushed, even. And I was like, okay, I'll get out of the way. And anytime that anyone or anything distracted me from watching the movie with him, he would like make the screen glitch as if to get my attention. And so I fell in love with Sammy right then and there. I said, okay, Sammy, you and I are best friends. We like Rocky Horror. We're good. We're fine.
wow. Wow. So people are like engaging with Sammy there at the shop, and have they had any experience?
He'll make his presence known. Like for me, he'll poke me specifically right here in such a way where it does hurt, and I have to tell him to stop. My mentor, she has I forget what the machine is called, but it's one of those things where it can pick up like different like electro waves or something like that and get voices. I forget what it's called. But every so often she'll turn it on and have full-on conversations with him. And that's how we learned he likes whiskey. He said it like maybe a couple of times, and we got the gist. We got him a little shot of whiskey. I mean, sure, why not? And after that, he calmed down. And like I said, people just love him. This one lady I remember brought him $20, and he still has it. So
wow, that's crazy. Wow. So yeah, it would not occur to me to leave offerings to these.
Like I said, he's building a following. If I could start a social media page for him, I would. But I have a feeling that he would do better than me, and I'm a bit jealous of that.
So. Wow. Yeah. How do you overcome jealousy of something like that? Although I could see it being a thing. Do you think that spirits are drawn to you personally, or to the space that you've created?
That is a good question. Okay. So I would say maybe, this is going to sound like a cop-out, but I would say maybe a little bit of both. If anything, because I have always been told growing up even that I bring such a light or such an energy into any place I enter. What that means, I don't know. I'm me. I do the best I can by being me. And as for when it comes to my space and everything, that's when I try to make it very homely. Like this is my office, right there is my working area. In front of me is my computer where I do all my designs, my little ad that I made for you for this and everything. This is my home. And then, yeah, I just try to make it homely and make it very welcoming for anyone or anything that enters. And, I go from there. I like to say if I'm comfortable, great, but I want to make sure that everyone else is comfortable too. I'm homely that way.
I feel you with that. Yeah. There comes a point where you have to, make your space very comfortable and very everybody has their own thing that they want to do with their home. Some people want to turn it into a museum. Other people want to turn it into, a showcase that you don't even like. They have rooms you don't even actually use because everything is so perfect. I, on the other hand, obviously, this room is pretty much my office and everything else too. So I kind of feel you on that. So we've kind of gone over this, but I want to dive in a little more specifically with this. How do you emotionally and spiritually protect yourself when working with so many different items like this?
Well, I don't. Sometimes it kicks my butt, and sometimes I learn. Like today, I have my little veil on. I got some protective jewelry because I've been told 3 times alone today, just by this guy, because of course it has to be this guy, that he does not want to be anywhere near the box. He doesn't like the box. The box is not his friend, not his home. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna be having you two at least near each other, so please. So for my sanity, I'm protected at this moment, at least.
Wow. Wow, yeah. And I do want to throw in there and mention, because we've already had that discussion in chat, that yes, Ellie is one of my mods as well, and is a great part of this team. So it's exciting to me to get to see a different part of his world tonight, their world. It's one of those things where I don't normally get to find out all the details about the team, but this is one of those rare moments for me. So is there an item that is sort of your dream item of things that you would love to find?
Well, I mean, in the realm of haunted books, I guess, but you know, I've always been one who's, the best way to put it is, I'm a seeker of knowledge. I love to learn, I love to grow and all that things. So if I were to get my hands on anything from like the original days of King Solomon or any of that nature, oh, I'm not letting any of that go. I'm not letting him go, but I'm not letting any of that go.
That would be awesome. Definitely be something awesome. I always find it interesting because, when I think of objects, like there are certain things I will not buy in antique shops or thrift stores.
Oh, yeah.
Mirrors.
Sometimes I can't handle it, but one of the I guess passing times of the town that I'm in, the very small, very lovely town, is it's like 3 to 5 antique shops, all selling relatively the same thing, but also not. And I mean, I keep on going back to this one called A Niche in Time. That's the name of the shop, and its name holds some truth to it. I mean, I found this guy. I found a bunch of objects from very different time periods that I've just accumulated over the years and kind of taken into my own thing. Currently, outside my room right now, I have a table that is made from a Ouija board that I said, that's it. That's my little item for now.
Oh, wow. Now, is this a Ouija board that's been used before?
Maybe. I like to think so. I mean, it was handmade, so I can only assume. But when I got it, it's the smallest. It's like yay big, pink. Because why not? I guess. And it's got the classic designs, the yes, no, all of it. I remember though, I took it home and I said, I'm gonna leave it outside until I can properly cleanse it. I don't mean like physically scrub and clean. I mean like get whatever energy is going on with it, because there's something about it that I'm not too sure of. And that's the one object that I have yet to bring in my home.
Oh, wow. Very interesting. So you just don't feel...
The best way I can put it is that it's nothing bad, but it's just off-putting for me. And that's enough to be like, you can be with me, you can be by me, but you ain't crossing my doors.
Wow. I feel that. I don't know that I would be bold enough to even start trying to collect haunted objects myself.
See, it's not me being bold, it's me being stupid. But I'm okay with it.
at least being daring, having an open mind about breaking your own neck, maybe. I don't know. Before we go much farther, I do want to throw in and let you guys know, coming up next week, we actually have a friend of yours next week coming on.
Excited. I already told him that I will be there. I will probably get with you again on making another ad because I love him to death. So we'll see.
Exactly. We all do. Next week, my guest will be Fire Lotus the Witch, who will be talking about some very personal paranormal experiences they've had. So please stay tuned for that next week. I appreciate you guys for hanging out this long with us and tonight. And if you have, I want you guys to leave me a comment down below about what you think about these haunted objects, and would you be bold enough to actually collect them? So let's talk for a minute, because here's one of the things that I find very interesting. Obviously, there's a, like we've talked about already once tonight, there's a extreme amount of curiosity right now and interest in haunted objects because of the Conjuring series. And of course, there's all these myths and legends that build up about all this stuff. What would you say to somebody who was interested in starting a collection?
Oh, just do your research, know what you're potentially going to get into, and don't be like me. And if you feel like something is not going to be beneficial to you, then by all means leave it. For me, I'm unlike that. If I feel like something won't serve me in a good manner, if it might serve me in a more negative manner, I still take it in, just because I'm an experiment. I experiment. I play around with everything and anything, and and I get myself into trouble by doing that. But that's how I live.
I guess we all have to do what we what we feel called to do, in a sense, with that. Do you combine magic and energy work with your objects at times then?
Actually, with one, yes. I have this little tiger's eye skull that I actually got from my metaphysical shop that I do my readings at. He goes by the name Collins. He's actually the first spirit that I've had that given me a name. And I came across him when my mentor brought him into the shop, and we both kind of knew that there was something weird or off-putting about this one in particular. And because he's a stone that I often work with in my personal practice as is, I said, okay, he's a skull, he's a stone, great, let me have him. That I did. And I remember driving home on the day after I did my readings, I kept on hearing the word Collins, kept on hearing it out of my radio. There was a talk show host by the name of that. Then just the word popped up on Collins Street going somewhere, and I said, okay. I grabbed him because I had to slam on my brakes because I was somewhat reckless, but we're gonna not talk about that. And I grabbed him and I just heard the name like in my head again, Collins. I said, okay, so is that your name? Is that what you're telling me? I've heard it so many times. I felt good. I felt like, okay, that might be confirmation. And so to this day, I am training him, I'd like to say, to be kind of like a second hand, a assistant, if you will, in my practice. He's been with me now to two of my times that I went to the shop doing readings. He's been involved in my spell work, where I would set him somewhere just to watch me do my spell work, and I will tell him, I want you here, I want you present, I want you to learn how I do this. That way I can ask you for your assistance in the future.
Wow. I'm trying to wrap my head around, because I think in a way, it would be for me. It would be a little bit difficult to if I owned an object like that to bring it into my practice, because I would be concerned about how it would interact.
I mean, I get that. As I always say, you can always experiment and try, and if you don't like it, put them in the box. That's all. That's always what I say.
Yeah, don't behave. You're going in the box, kid. So, do certain materials like wood or metal or crystal tend to hold energy better than others?
Let's see. I mean, this is coming from my animist standpoint. I think that pretty much everything has a spirit because, I mean, Earth itself is alive and a lot of materials came from Earth, And so that being said, I would say maybe stones, maybe wood, only because those are more natural than some other things. But for the most part, anything can at least have an attachment, or if not an attachment, then anything can have a spirit overall.
Mm. Wow. Wow. I'm like, it's real funny because like watching the background there at your place is kind of interesting sometimes with all the stuff going on there. What advice would you? How do I want to put this? Like if somebody came to you and said, you know, this and this and this is going on in my house, I think I may have something here that's causing it. Maybe they brought in new furniture recently, or or stuff that they've acquired from someplace different or whatever. What advice would you give them if they were concerned that there was something causing this to happen in their house?
I would always say look for patterns. A lot of times, especially with what I've noticed when I bring objects into my home and have the spirit. With this going on, it was more behavioral patterns. People around me, my animals, as I said earlier, their behavior switched. They were acting not as they should. And then I had dreams again of like the spirit itself yelling at me, visually seeing the book and everything. Just look for patterns. And I would say that you would know most definitely if something was having a haunting or something had a spirit and something was, trying to be present after like the third or fourth pattern if it correlates. Mm-hmm. Because 9 times out of 10, a spirit getting your attention, it will make sure that it does relatively the same thing in order to get your attention. That way it knows you're looking.
Wow. So one of the questions we have for you here is, have you ever had a spirit move on?
Oh, hey, that is my coworker. Anyway, so yeah, actually, accidentally, I've had a spirit move on. I remember there was a time where I was young. I was a young witch practicing, doing the typical young witch not supposed to do kind of things. And I called what at the time I believe would have been just some sort of spirit into my space, almost like a servitor, which is a type of spirit that is existent to help you and aid you, like how I'm trying to turn him into one. Mm-hmm. And I remember the color blue, seeing the color blue so often when I called in this spirit, this servitor. Finally, I lit a blue candle for him. And ever since then, it was like they were gone. They weren't there anymore. Couldn't feel them, couldn't hear them, couldn't nothing. And it was then that I was like, oh, I think I just kind of forced them out of my home, out of my life. Never seen them again.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, that would be kind of intense there's a lot of things that to me that would about this. Do you ever have people that come into to your house and like they don't have a clue until they walk in, and they walk in and they see all these interesting things around, and they start asking about them, and they have like
So my current partner, before we lived together, he knew I was a practitioner. He knew like what I was about. It was not until he moved in that he saw everything to the extent that it was. And I remember I was like, hey, by the way, if anything weird happens, leave a penny or a dime or something on the ground and just call it good. And he was like, why? I said, just trust me. And just, and lo and behold, I remember that this was a few months back, I believe. One of our bowls or something like that fell off the counter unprompted, out of nowhere. It was secure and it just fell. I already knew who that was, as I always do. It's the one spirit that I have, the thumper, that just does what he does. And I got the book. I got the Bible. Oops, I just dropped my skull. Anyway.
Oops.
I looked at it and I started kind of like just eyeballing it in such a you're going in the box way without saying it. And my partner was like, what? What? I said, it's this. So by the way, remember when I told you just leave things be? Yeah, it's this. And he said, oh, we're living in a haunted house? I said, yeah, and it's my fault that it's haunted, but you know.
Wow. Yeah, that's going to be, I would think that would be something that would take a minute to get used to.
Oh, he had to get used to it. He said, well, I mean, considering everything else you do. I said, yeah, it's nothing new.
Right? It's like, I can't like, I just can't like wrap my head around. It's funny in a way because like honestly, you know, when we think about, like I said, there are some things I will not bring into my house from antique shops and so forth like that, because you just know you're inviting in stuff. Mirrors,
Oh,
I
antique
never.
shops are the place to be if you want haunted items. That's all I'm gonna say.
I literally don't even have like the only mirror that's in this house is in the bathroom. Here, I don't keep mirrors in my house, especially old ones and used ones. And I did a lot of clean. I have crystals sitting all over my bathroom, too, especially underneath this mirror, because I don't know who lived here before and what they may have done. But it's definitely one of those things where, yeah, and I don't buy used chairs. That's another thing I learned. I bought a chair once that was used, and crazy stuff started happening because of that. And after that, I'm like, I'm never going to buy another used chair a day in my life.
I love the chaos. That's why I started collecting. Like I was like, oh, this shouldn't be happening. I want more.
Wow.
I'd like to say my life is a sitcom at best. It's okay.
So when you bring a new object home, do you have you just kind of like bring it in? You don't have any.
Unless I feel like it needs to be spiritually cleansed or like have some sort of thing around it where I know it won't harm anything or anyone, I usually just walk it right into my home, set it on my main practicing altar, and I'm like, you're gonna live here for a little bit, get used to the space. We're gonna interact. We're gonna have fun, and I kind of just say that, like, you know, you're welcome to your new home, and you know, try not to harm me, please.
Wow. You really are either brave or crazy. I haven't decided yet. I mean, because like we're talking about just potentially anything can happen
Yeah.
in a sense.
There's been a lot. Sometimes I really wonder why I do myself like this, but by the end, I just remember that, hey, someone has to. And I chose to be that someone that did. So,
I love it. So, one of
yeah,
our
it's exactly like getting cats used to each other. Um, I mean, I didn't have to separate my Bible or my rosary, that's for sure, but I definitely did have to step away from like them myself a couple of times. They're feisty, they really are. But much like anything else, we're all a family. We're a very weird family, but we're all a family. Me and my prairie dog skull that I have, I love that thing. I think that was my first item that I ever actually brought into my home was my little prairie dog skull that I found when I was walking on a trail not too far from here. And that was at the time I was with my ex fiance, and he refused to let me bring it in unless I cleansed it or whatever. And I did not. So I brought it in. And you know, every so often, every time I would hear like little chirps or something. I think, oh, okay, that's the prairie dog probably walking around making itself known.
wow. So, is the prairie dog really mischiefy?
No, he's calmed down over the years. I've had him for like maybe 5 years, but at first he really was just kind of getting used to the space, much like any other animal, if you will, getting used to the space, exploring it, seeing what could happen. I have noticed that most of my items that I do have, or maybe it's something to do with me, I primarily, I guess, communicate with them, if you will, in my dreams when I'm sleeping. That's when I've noticed that the Bible spirit was a redhead, had glasses, and was very vulgar and rude. uh, that's when my rosary that I had would kind of just not judge me, but be very diplomatic about how they would talk to me. And everything else, just as I said, I would have dreams and they would present themselves there. And from there, I would get to know their energetic patterns, if you will. If I felt a certain energy, I know who it is and I know what's going on.
I'm trying to figure this one out. Hold on a second.
A pair of ostrich skin boots. Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That is. See, that's the thing too. It's like articles of clothing. I don't buy used clothing.
I don't either, but that's just because I'm very picky about what I wear.
The one thing that I did have, and I don't think I have it any longer, was a shark skin jacket at one time that I got. That I saw at a thrift store when I was out with a friend of mine and absolutely loved it. Um, I keep it tucked away.
I mean, there was a time I had leather pants. So
Wow. Yeah, I would be a little concerned about like, because then you're like adding animal with potential human energy too.
no, but all in all, though, my little collection that I've had growing, especially Sammy. Oh, I love Sammy. um, I see him once a month, and he's always very loud. God, but anyway.
Wow.
Okay, leather pants. Yes, I've had leather pants.
So, Fire Lord B, since you're a coworker, what's been your experience with this extra little company there?
Well, actually, B has yet to be in my home, but fun fact. This has nothing to do with anything, but fun fact: B and I are twins. We have the same birthday. That just little lore drop.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. So there's a double dose of energy there with you
Oh
guys.
yeah, no,
Wow.
people hate us when we're together.
That's great. That's super great. Do you find that that having uh, the um, the puppet there in the shop, do you find the energy around in that shop kind of affects the energy of the spirit there?
Oh yeah. He's very loud, as I said. He's very chatty, but when um if the shop itself has been like freshly cleansed, cleaned, whatever, if we put up any protections of sorts, I have to make sure that he himself is doing okay. Because I like Sammy. Like I said, we didn't get along at first, but now if I go to the shop, which I'm doing tomorrow, and I don't bring him cookies, or if I don't just acknowledge him, he gets mad at me, and I'm okay with it. Not I'm
Wow.
okay with him getting mad at me, but I'm okay with that energy that he and I need to interact.
Wow. So do you ever get a sense of like any of any of their like I guess their past life experience?
You know, I'm gonna have to say yeah. I especially with my little thumper here, I could tell that he grew up very much in a very like different time. Everything had to be like very traditional American. And it's not just from how he is towards me. It's anytime I hold that book and anytime I really focus on him alone, other than getting yelled at, I see like a tiny little redhead that grew up in this very small conservative home that like his ideals were almost instilled in him, and I feel it. Some might say I feel it a little too well. I know there's times where my partner had to like remind me that I am not that spirit, that I am me, and I would come to him like, oh right, sorry.
Wow. Whoa. Yeah. That's going to be kind of interesting in itself. Definitely interesting in itself. So when you are, I guess when you're out and about and in some of these places where you've come across these things, do you ever have an experience where you just you feel like, oh my God, I can't do this. I've got to leave because it becomes so overwhelming.
Um, Not so much. My thing is, I thrive. I'm weird. I thrive off the most. Like, people will get overwhelmed and headaches at very high energy places like my metaphysical shop I read at, for example. And that's where I thrive. I'm like, no, this energy, I need to stay here because I want to see what happens. I want to experience whatever is to come, even if it hurts me, because I know I'll recover. If I've recovered for the past 23 years, I'll recover again tomorrow. So.
Wow. Yeah. I don't necessarily get too terribly wound up at places that are like high energy, but there's one or two places I've been to that was just kind of like, okay, I'm done here. But yeah, I get what you're saying. There's a tendency, uh, to kind of, I guess, in a way, for me, it's kind of a little bit of a head rush to be around all that sometimes. Uh, but yeah, at the same time, I think being protected is one of those things that really helps me out a lot, though, because I make sure I'm thoroughly protected before I go into some of
That
those
makes one of
areas.
us.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean,
But
no, I'll protect myself if so my mentor and I, we went on a paranormal investigation at this prison that's not too far from here, abandoned prison. We had a whole group, a whole setup and everything. And, unlike my normal times where I would go in and just be, she made sure that I had my protective oils and charms on me. because she even didn't know what we were getting into. We had a seance that night. It was a fun night. I didn't end up coming home. There was a mask in one of the cells that I really wanted to take, but they wouldn't let me take it. But anyway.
Wow. And Pam is saying that your Patreon is very good. By the way, so you guys go and check that out for sure.
Yeah, so my Patreon, I show a lot of my personal life, and I also give like general card readings just for the public. So
that's right. I do want to point out that you do offer card readings as well, and some of the team have come to you for readings, and says that you're very good at what you do, which does not surprise me at all. Do you have any words of wisdom when it comes to, I guess, things that you really want to like give us that we haven't talked about yet when it comes to the, I don't want to say cursed objects because I wouldn't say they're really cursed.
No, they're not cursed. I just am, but it's okay. No, my advice would be, if anything, if it's something that piques your curiosity, if it's something that genuinely you have an interest in, go for it. Make sure, again, that you're not like me, that you are semi-aware of what you're getting yourself into, and just explore it. Have fun. There's always means to get rid of things. There's always means and ways to put things in boxes. If put them in timeout. And just have fun. We are physically here, they are not, so they can only do so much.
True story. And I think that's one of the things that's really important for us to really bring home to people, is that these objects, the spirits attached to these objects, we need to be careful not to give them godlike qualities, because they are limited, and the misinformation that comes with a lot of stuff, like people telling you that haunted objects can cause buildings miles away to catch fire, and
Annabelle. I wonder if she can do that to my job. I don't know. Anyway.
right. That's the thing. We have to understand that there are limits with these things, that they're not just like this unlimited power source that can just be like all over the place and dangerous, and in global ways and stuff like that. That there are definite laws of limitations with them, and and obviously having care and respect for them is one of the ways of making sure that things are safe, and and that we have a safe interaction with them. Yeah. So what can we expect from coming up from you, Elly, for future endeavors?
So currently on my YouTube channel, I am doing a month-long series, if you will, all about the sun and solar energies. We started with correspondences. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the summer solstice, since it's right around the corner. I got some spell recipes, some oil recipes, and yeah, other than that, keep an eye out on my social medias overall, because I have some fun ideas, some of which involve travel, some of which involve me like going places that I've never been, that I just want to take people with.
Oh, wow. Awesome. That sounds like fun. The travel part sounds like a lot of fun. All right. We are right at the hour mark tonight, so I'm going to go on and like close us out for the night, but I want you to if you will, to hang out for just a moment in the back there, and I will be right back there with you in just a moment.
All right.
And I appreciate you very much for coming on tonight. I think this was a very fun interview and a lot of good information about haunted objects. Some items hold memories and others hold more than that. As we've seen tonight, haunted objects don't just sit on the shelves, they linger, whisper, and sometimes they reach out. Whether they're cursed, charged, or simply forgotten, these relics remind us that the past is never truly gone. It clings and it waits. And sometimes it finds its way back into the world through the hands of collectors like Elly. Thank you for joining me tonight. And a huge thank you to Prosperity Witch Elly for sharing with us the collection, its collection, and the things that we have talked about tonight, the bits of nuggets that we've shared. If something in this episode stirred you in your space, or maybe something in this episode has given you a little bit of a question that you would like to explore further, then do so and drop it in the comments. Maybe it's time to take a closer look at what's watching us from the corners of the room. Until next time, this has been Magical Journey Podcast. I'm Daniel Cahoon. Stay curious, stay protected, and maybe don't bring home that mirror from the antique store. Thank you all, and may your journey always be magical.
I've waited for so long to see when you come back to me. Through the wars and battles that were lost, we're born again, it's you and me. The rest is history. Past lives. We must have been something in our